Hey everyone, Dan here. We are about a half hour after market close on Tuesday, June 22nd. Today we're going to take an updated look at Wish. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also feel free to comment below with your thoughts, opinions, ideas, questions, tickers you'd like me to cover. Any of those things help everyone who reads them after you, and I also enjoy digging through them every night. One last thing before we get started, I'm also planning to launch a newsletter in the next couple of months. Nothing that will be too invasive. I'm thinking once, maybe twice a week. And I haven't even started putting it in motion yet, but I have a Google form linked in the description below. If you would like to toss your email in there, when things get sort of ready to go, I'll, send a little email letting folks know, but it gives us a way to sort of like stay in contact beyond just YouTube, and, will provide me the ability to kind of provide folks with some different content throughout the week other than just videos. Okay. So ContextLogic has, as I'm sure you know if you're watching this video, had this magnificent run up that was mostly happened in one day on the 8th of June, and then it lost about maybe 60% of the gain the following day, and then piddled down a little bit since then in subsequent days, but then tried to make another return, backtracked, retraced almost all the way again, and now has started a little consistent upswing. So a bunch of higher lows here since, the first higher low was on the 17th of June, and then has kept that pattern, and today is almost putting in what looks like a bit of a bull flag, which we'll zoom in a minute and take a look at that a little bit closer. But for now, I wanted to take a look just at this upswing action and plot out some support potential dip buy zones, potential areas where you could look for bounces if it does dip further. And then we look at some upper price targets beyond there to give folks some idea of where they might be able to take an entry or get an additional entry, average down, that sort of thing. Those are generally pretty helpful as you're trying to flesh out your position in a stock. All right, so 1150 down there, if it needs it, should be a really solid zone, as should this one. I'm going to try to plot not just like tons and tons of zones, but I'm going to try to pick out, some really impactful ones so that they are really solid zones that should provide a lot of support. And if you're new to the channel, what I'm looking for as I'm dragging my cursor around here is I'm looking for areas where there's previous support and previous resistance. So you see all this resistance here, support here, resistance here, resistance, support, support, support and resistance, support, support. So areas of previous price action that encompass both support and resistance repetitively are typically really strong supply and demand zones that the price often reacts to when it gets there again. So it'll often linger there or treat it as future support and resistance. And that's where if it's, the prices that I've targeted that are below where it is right now, those would be really good potential dip buys, as it's really hard, aka impossible, to catch a falling knife. So you do the best that you can and you look for signs along the way. And so one of those signs could be it hits one of these zones and starts to show the beginnings of a bounce. Now, in order to keep your risk management under control, I would recommend setting a stop loss underneath there, depending on what your lowest price point is. Say you were happy to start taking a position at 1197 and dip buy it all the way down to 1094. What you might want to do is then look for the next zone below that, which is like that 1032-ish area, right about here, because of support, resistance, support. And you may want to set a stop loss like 1 ATR below. And so what you're doing there is you're looking for the ATR indicator, and it's 54 cents right now, so you'd set it 54 cents below 1032. What the ATR is allowing you to do is give a little breath, a little space between the exact price zone and the volatility of the price action in the recent price activity. So there's this a tendency for the price to fluctuate around 0.54 from these zones. And so what you want to do is you want to say, okay, this could be sticking to, or this could be recovering from this 1032 zone, but it may dip 54 cents below there because it's a pretty volatile stock. But that may not mean that it's falling that much further below. That may just mean that the volatility is dragging it down there, but it still is intending to bounce back off of that 1032. This way, you don't stop loss yourself out and lose prospective gains, but you're still setting yourself with a price point at which you are going to exit the position if it falls below. I can do more info on that in the future if you want. Leave me a comment if the ATR indicator would be helpful, but I use it a lot to add it to my take profit and my stop loss zones so that I don't prematurely take profit and miss out on some, though that always happens, or that I don't. The worst one to me is sort of like inadvertently stop lossing yourself, and then it just quickly recovers after the stop loss. And if you had just left it the space of the ATR, you would have been in good shape. All right, so these are the zones that I see in the very, very near future. Only one that's really to the upside there, that 1378, but we can add in some additional higher price points when we look at the macro chart, the zoomed in version. But I could put one up there at 1451 as well because of this previous support and resistance, and then this recent resistance here. So this is what I'd be looking for in the coming days ahead. Good dips down to potentially buy and catch a dip or catch a falling knife, however it's reacting. Keep in mind the ATR is my suggestion. On the upper side, I'd look for it to get support at that 1378 and then build support on 1451 if it's going to sort of like have a jumping off point or a launch pad in order to really get into the high teens again. Now, on the indicator side of things, let's take a quick look. Our RSI is just above the mid-range, and what you might be seeing here, which happens quite often in stocks, let me see if I can find a good example of it here. Yeah, there's not a great example of it at the moment. Maybe Wish doesn't often do this, but what you will often see is a stock make a run overbought territory and then come down about mid-range and then make its second run up and over. But it actually looks like Wish very often goes from like oversold to overbought and then comes down close or all the way to oversold, like here, and then makes another run toward overbought. So that could be another way to look at playing this one. If you see that repetition playing out consistently, oversold, overbought, could count this as oversold. This might be one of those that you want to count like 35 or 40 or something as oversold, and then treat, still 70, 75 as the overbought territory. Because AMD is one like this that we talk about a lot, or that I have talked about in the past. So like if you bought it here at about 773 because it was oversold, and then just sold it when it was overbought, that would have been 870, and all you would have done was just played the RSI, and then you could have bought it again at 783 and wait till it was overbought, and you would have sold it at 843. So you're making like these really consistent gains just by playing this one indicator. You would have triggered again here actually, because the RSI was 27, and you could have ridden the price from 766 to who knows where you would have sold it here, but just say 929. So that would have been a nice one. Obviously, you may want to wait for a red candle before you sell out, since you know that runs like this can happen, especially as Wish continues, to have volatile times. So that might be what you look for, is stretches into overbought territory, and then has a red candle. And that's your indication to go ahead and look for an exit point, or that just triggers your exit point. So could be a good one. Those ones are actually really consistent to play. I play AMD like that all the time, and I was just thinking the other day that I might devote an entire brokerage account to AMD and just mostly play the RSI runs and see how high I can build that account over time. Anyway, the MACD showing slightly bearish momentum here, throughout the day today, but also that could be sort of kind of leveling out and then waning. Be looking for a bullish crossover here on the MACD to see if it is going to take a nice upswing. On the zoomed in side of things, so let's toss this charting. Well, let's leave it for now. Let's see if we can leave it and if it still looks okay zoomed in. Okay, yeah, that's not bad. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is this sort of like bull flag where, these flagging patterns would be like, this is the pole to the flag, and then the graphic looks like this. This is like a pennant. I don't know if folks are like around my age or if they did things that I did, but used to get these pennants at the baseball games with like the teams on them. And so that's the kind of flag that this is making. It's making like a pennant type shape, not like a national flag type shape. So that's the potential bull flag that we see here. And this just indicates, a big price run up and then a brief period of slightly downward consolidation. So yes, downward, but mostly consolidating. And it hasn't dipped so far. It started this run about 1150 and stretched it to about almost 1450. And now it's come down, at its lowerish point at about 13. So 1150 to 1450 is $3. So, the mid-range is right about 13. So it came down about 50% from there. And now is, high 13s. So it could be working its way out of this flagging position and giving itself a big bump to the upside. So that's what I'll be looking for. If it can work itself out of here by morning, you might see a nice jump up, getting support at that 1451 pretty early on in the day and then building off of there. So that would be my main area of focus ahead of tomorrow, because this stretches just directly into like 10 a.m. tomorrow. Even if it stays in this, like if it does this kind of price action, it will have to fall out one way or another at about 10:05 tomorrow morning. Let's look at the shorter term indicators just to kind of get a sense of where we are. A little bit higher, but still relatively mid-range on the RSI, though it is creeping up on the MACD. We got some bullish histogram. Some bullish momentum here, though that's dying down a little bit. So that might have a hard time getting over this downtrend portion of the flag, at least during the after hours. Though we'll see what pre-market brings in the morning. All right, well, good luck if you're in this one. It's definitely interesting. I was just looking at this before because it's as though it was just completely flat today. 1350, not up, not down. So opened at 1348 and closed at 1350. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, in any case, I hope that this video gave you some ideas. Blend it, mix it with your own sort of strategy with things that you're looking at as you're playing this stock, and just use it as additional data points, additional info to consider, but always, always, always do your own due diligence and trust yourself the most. All right, well, thanks a bunch for watching. I hope your trading week is off to a good start, and I will see you in the next video.